Hello there, reason people, PoohBear here, and welcome to my channel. And today, well, basically what came up on one of the forums is someone wanted to have up to 24 patterns using obviously the Dr. X, and they wanted to be able to switch through them. To me, this is quite a simple solution, but then I wanted to extend it, not just so you can play the 8 patterns, obviously using the traditional 8 keys. I thought I'll extend it so each of the Dr. X's would have their own 8 set of keys. And then I thought I'd even go one step further, because the very first solution and the second solution involves using some key switches, and my third solution would be automatically. So whatever pattern I happen to select, it's actually going to automatically select the correct Dr. X loop as well. Within this setup, the only slight difference is I've made pattern 1 blank, so I can just quite simply make it quiet. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select all 3 of the Dr. X's and we're going to combine them up. So far, quite straightforward. So now if I was to hit any sort of pattern, all 3 of them will actually run at the same time. Got to turn the runs off them at the moment. So the first thing to do is, right, we want to set this up so only one of them is going to be running at a time, and yeah, and we're going to be able to switch between them. So what we need to do is to go into Show Programmer. So on the very first one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select button 1, and if we go down to the amp master level, and what I'm going to do to this is make them both the same value. Now I would recommend making them 100. Why 100? Because they default to 100. Yeah, that's why I want to make it to 100. The second one, I am going to make the master level 0 and 0. Now you might be thinking, why am I making them the same value? Because it's very unusual to do it this way. And let me just put that to 0. So what basically that it means is whenever I touch this button, it doesn't matter if it's on or off, it's going to set it to 100. Yeah. So if I was to now click on this one, it will set it to 0. And it doesn't matter if it's on or off on any of them. So the button lights are now have become virtually meaninglessly. But it doesn't, it means usually you'd have to turn something on and then turn it off again. But this way we don't have to do that. Now for the second one, we're going to virtually repeat it, but we have it in a slightly different order. So I'm going to have master level set up 1, 2, 3. But this time, the first one, we're going to have that set to 0. So that's when button 1 set, and button 3 set to 0. And then ideally we want this set to around about the 100 mark. Where are we? Nearly there. There we go. And we're going to repeat the same for the third one. We're going to need lots of master level. You guessed it. These are going to be 0, the first one. The second one is going to be 0. And the third one, we're going to make 100 and 100. Whoops, too far. Hey. I'm lucky enough because obviously I've got my T6 here, so I can actually use the things at the top. But as you can see, as I'm switching button 2, and I'm going to go to button number 3, you can see we switched between the 3. Now let's say, well, obviously we're changing the patterns down here. We don't want to be moving up maybe to change between the banks, so you can just simply, right click, remote override. And I'm just going to hit a control, select that key, I'm going to click OK. I'm going to do exactly the same thing down to this one. And let's do the third to that one. So now I can use my keyboard to change all 3. What you may have to do when you start overriding certain things, sometimes you have to play around with the zones. But anyway, so now we should be able to just take that Show Programmer to get it all on the screen. Obviously, I can change my pattern on my first one. I can now key switch to the second one. And key switch to the third one. If we go back to the first one and hit pattern number 1, hey, it's done. So anyway, so there we go. There's a very nice simple solution which allows you to switch between all 3, and yeah, done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to put a different pattern on different keys. It's still going to involve using the key switching at this stage, but it just means we're going to have different patterns on different keys. It could be that you're using this Dr. X and it would allow you to select the pattern on this one ahead of time, ready to hit your key switches, so you're not having to jump backwards and forth or use two hands, maybe, especially if you've got your patterns coming up here. So it allows you to switch pattern ahead of time, and then you can select the actual device you want. And we're going to do that quite simply by zoning these out. So I'm just going to take the lower zone up first. Where are we? I think we're in the zeros, aren't we? Are we down there? Yeah, we are. So let me just bring this down here so we can see what's what. Yeah, so we are down this end. So it's going to be from E0 to B0. It's going to be my first zone. My second zone then is obviously going to be, oh, I didn't switch. These are going to be so slow sometimes when changing. It's meant to switch onto that, and then I can quickly use this one up. C1, and we're going to want, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We want there, don't we? So cool. And then obviously we want the third one. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're up here, aren't we? Yay! So that should do it really. So now if I just come here and we come down to here, that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we come here. Happens to be on number 1 already. Oh, number 2 didn't go. Oh, we're not going. What's going on? Oh, big mistake, big mistake. We've got to now obviously transpose it down. So I've got to take this one down by 8. So there's 8 notes, and this one I've got to take down by 16. Now we should be cooking. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it's already on 1, so it's going to jump to 2, so then we can hit 1 to prove 1 works. Great, but as I said, we still got to use the key switches down here to switch between the two. There's nothing stopping me saying, right, I'm going to have pattern number 4 ready. Here we go. And bring pattern number 4 in, and then obviously we're going to change this one down here to pattern number 5. Then we've gone on to pattern number 5. So far, these two solutions have been quite straightforward. And now, what I'm going to do is we're going to go into quite a complex solution, and it's going to use delta. And I'm going to do two things with delta, because I find if I now said I want pattern number 23, which would be obviously the third device, number 7, because it's 8 and it's a different 8, and now it's a different set of 8 keys. Yeah, actually, I do know it will be that one, but I must admit I get confused with some of the ones in between. So I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to actually map it in such a way that this is going to be pattern number 1, this is going to be 4, and that's going to be 8. And I'm going to make this 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. And I think by having that and then replicating it for my second device, exactly the same thing, 1, 4, and 8. So see that'd be 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. I find that a lot easier to suddenly say, I do want pattern number 23. Bang, it's going to be that key there. I know it instantly. It's easy to see. And without a doubt, the black keys on the keyboard, especially when you're not looking at the keyboards, when you're playing in it, they're the braille of the keyboards. These tell you exactly where you are on the keyboard. So having, I think, the black keys actually set makes it a lot easier. And obviously, them 3 are easy ones to get to as well, because they just fit nicely in. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just uncombine these devices. So it's like we're going from fresh. Then we're going to select all 3 again, and then we're just going to combine them up. Got ourselves a nice blank combinator. There's nothing set in it. I'm going to set my rotaries to 0 to start with, because I tend to forget to do that because I'm going to be using some CV coming into the rotaries. Then what I'm actually going to do on each of the rotaries, I'm actually going to set the master level, and we're going to set these. So the second rotary, sorry, on the second device, I'm going to set that master level, and they're going from 0 to 127. You know, before we made them both the same value. In this particular case, we're doing it slightly differently, and we're going to set that one. And that is it, really, from the programmer side. Next thing we're going to need is some deltas. I'm going to use 2 deltas when I actually build this up. You can build this all up in 1 delta, but there's some cases that when I'm putting things together, I actually prefer to use more than 1 delta. A, because of the screen size, but B, because then I can, what I'm going to do with the first one is I'm going to be creating like a zoning area, and I can use that patch on other devices, and whenever I need to zone out my keyboard, I can use that separately from the mapping side. And I'll talk about the mapping side in a second. So what we're going to first of all do is we're actually going to take control of these particular rotaries. So obviously these rotaries, as you can see, as I change them, it's going to change the volume. And we're going to want to do the same. So obviously if this volume is up, when we do our automatically key switching, i.e. when I select, say, this pattern here, number 2, I'm going to want that volume to go down, and I'm going to want this one to go up. So the first thing we're going to do, as I say, we're going to have to set ourselves some zones up, and we're going to use a couple of if statements, and let's take this way down. So the first one, I suppose really I should set another zone up to say if it's below a certain key range, but for now I'm not going to actually do that. So my key range is, first of all, is we're coming up to the B0. So I'm interested in anything above B0. There we go. So it's greater than. So greater than B0. I'm actually going to go off to this other if statement. And then I'm going to obviously have this range here. So then I'm now interested in anything above maybe B1. Oh, there we go. B1. It's quite nice. Now what I need to do is, I'm going to obviously get some input into this as well. We now need to obviously send signals out to control each of these. And in a way we're doing is we're taking MIDI in, and we're now going to be converting and using that MIDI data as really in a CV world. We're now sort of stepping into our CV world. And I'm actually going to use the notes, and this is going to be equivalent of my CV generator. I'm actually going to set that to 0 to start with, and I'm going to create 3 of them. In fact, I'm going to create a 4th one, put that there, and set that right up. I'm going to set that to 100 actually. Set that to 100. So 100 being, as I say, if I control click on the volume, you see it defaults to 100. So that's why I'm going to set that one to 100, and I'm going to make 3 of them. By the way, I'm just holding down my control key when I click on these. So I've got 3 of each. And I'm just going to space these out a bit. So I'm going to have a 1 and a 0. Sorry, got that bit wrong, haven't I? Where did I put my other one? So 1, 0. When I say 1, all right, we're talking about 100. I'm sort of already flipping into my CV world there. I want these 2 the other way around as well, so it's easier to see. Yay, so there we go. So this is this one here is going to be this set down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to output this, and I'm going to put that into the 100. So that means that note's going to go in there, and I'm going to put this to here. So whenever I hit anything in this key range down here now, which I can do, you can see that these all highlight. Nothing's highlighting down here where nothing else is wired up. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to output that, and I'm going to need 3 outputs. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to put these all on their separate channels. So that's channel 1. I'm going to put that onto channel 2, and I'm going to put that onto channel 3. And just in case if you've never sort of used these before, 1, 2, and 3 actually relate to the ports on the back. 1, 2, 3. So you've got up to 8 channels. And what I'm going to do is, so this is the 100, I'm going to select that to channel 1, and then I'm going to put the zeros, channel 2, and channel 3. Before I wire up the others, I'm just going to flip to the back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my note out and put that into rotary 1. Number 2 is going to go to rotary 2, and number 3 is going to go to rotary number 3. So as I say, when I hit that, you can see it goes to 100. We haven't got the others wired up yet, so let's quickly wire them up as well. So if you remember rightly, we're interested in the bottom one is going to go to my next 2. You start to get yourself confused, and I'm actually going to wire up this bottom one here. It's going to go to that top one. So this is my 100. So my 100 is going to go to the middle, and then my 0 I'm going to put to the output 1 and 3. Obviously, to grab another note link, I'm going to hold Control down, and there we go. There's another link wire. I'll put that to number 3, and this is the bottom one. So this is the 100. So that goes into number 3, and this is going to go to number 1 and number 2. So it's very, very similar to how we set the combinator up in the first place, where I made 100, 100, 0, 0. Then the second one was 0, 100, 100, 0, 0. And then the last one was 0, 0, 0, 0, 100, 100. That's effectively what we've done with this. So now, obviously, when I hit a key up here, you can see this volume go up here. And when I hit a key up here, you can see this volume go up. This one goes down. And when I hit a key down here, we've now changed it back down to the first one. So we've now got key switching going on between our 3 octaves. Hey, so that's effectively what we've done. What we now need to do is actually map the notes. And mapping the notes is a little bit slower because there's quite a lot of mapping to do. But this kind of key mapping is something what I think a lot of people don't realize you can actually do with Delta. So you could have like an external piece of kit which is sending out MIDI on really bizarre notes. It might not be obviously the MIDI standard, what people are used to, especially with some drum machines. And rather than having to reprogram the machine itself, you can say, well, fine, I'm going to leave the machine how it is. When you get it into Reason, I can actually use Delta to remap all my notes appropriately. And that way you can remap your notes for different devices as well, and just save your patch. So here I'm going to do a patch. This is for my Kong, and this might be for another device because they're slightly an octave up or something else, and it just saves you having to remap them. So, as I say, this is going to be a biggie. So let's start to go through this. We're going to need 8 if statements, and we're going to need 8 notes. We could actually get away with 7 if statements, but I'm actually going to put 8 in, and I want some notes as well. I'm going to need 8 of these. Now I'm actually going to set these up to start with. The simple reason is the way Delta works with its copy and paste. It's very, very friendly, and it will save us a bit of work once I've copied and pasted this. And you see what I mean? It's going to do a bit of pre-wiring for us. So I'm not going to wire everything up, because if I wire this up to there, which I do need to do, when I copy and paste it, every single other if node would be wired up to this one. At the moment, when I copy and paste these, all these links will be wired up automatically for me. So let's start with the if statement. At the moment, this is working on MIDI notes, so you can actually specifically specify any MIDI note you want, but it's also got something really handy in here, which is called note name. So that would be any C I press, I am going to obviously have a true statement, and I'm going to work on that, which works out perfectly for our setup, which we've actually done. So any C note I'm pressing, I'm actually going to want to play the equivalent of pattern number 1 on the Dr. X, which would be E0. So I need to change this down to E0. So I'm just going to wire that one up to start with. E0, E0. Then I'm just going to highlight these two. I'm going to do a copy, and now I'm going to paste it 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we just need to get these a little bit spaced out. I'm probably going to have to move that down there a little bit. Let's not scroll the screen too far. So first of all, I'm going to map out what I wish to play, because if I do it one-to-one, I actually get myself confused. I'll admit that. So the second note I'm wishing to play is obviously going to be a C sharp. So let's move that to a C sharp. Then this one here is going to be my D sharp, sharp. Then I said I was going to go down to an F. From F, we're going to go to an F sharp. Then we're going to want to, this one here is going to be my G sharp. There we go. And scroll down. No, I have got the right amount. Then I'm going to go to a B flat. Where are we? Oh, there we go. And then that one should be a B. Check them. G. Yeah. Yeah. Looks good. Looks good. Looks good. Yay, that looks good. And now we need to map into the actual keys we want to. So pattern number 1, as I said, was E0. Pattern number 2 was F0. Pattern number 3. So we're going up to an F sharp, to a G. Oops. Very sensitive. Where am I going? Up one. Oh, there we go, G. I usually use my shift key obviously when I'm setting this sort of stuff, but I haven't got a spare hand. Where am I going now? G sharp, aren't I? There we go. On A. Now I'm going to have to take my hand off the keyboard, remembering I was on an A, so it's going to be an A sharp. Use my shift key now, can't I? And that's going to be a B. Cool. So let's do the final bit of wiring. Final bit of wiring would be I need the input to go into the first one, then I'm going to take the false statement and put that into the next if statement, the false statement into the next if statement, the false one into the next if statement, the false one into the next if statement, the false one into the next if statement, and the false into the next if statement, and the false into the next, whoops, so I'm going to hold my shift key down there, to the next if statement. And this is where I said I could have got away with not having this one here, because obviously I could have said, oh, and that one there, I could just put that straight into that note. So this is obviously any other note I'm now sort of playing, and we could obviously put that into an output or something. Or we could even do, yeah, we could do whatever we want with that, to be perfectly honest with us. But there we go. So I can leave that to one side. I mean, an interesting one could be any other key I play, which isn't my normal. I could probably even set that up to say, hey, select pattern, Dr. X number 1, pattern number 1, because I know that's blank. So I could actually set that to do that and do something funny with that. So wherever I am, I can obviously just hit that blank one. Now, fingers crossed, this should actually all be working now. So if I was to, let's try it. And let's see what we've got highlighted, because it didn't seem to want to work. Why isn't my run working? Probably done something very, very simple. Not simple. We got volume. Oh, okay, so we have got something which isn't working correctly. And let's have a quick look and see what's going on here. Everything's going to my output, but my notes, I've remapped it, of course. That makes sense. Let's come down here. Oh, everything's going to, I've got some major mistake. Let's see what mistake I've made here. Everything's going to this one. So what have I done? Greater than. Oh no, I didn't put them on equals, did I? Donut. I think my brain was obviously going off and thinking of something else at the time. There we go. We all make mistakes. And the last one. Hey, so it looks like we're working. Breathes a sigh of relief. So let's choose a pattern up here and pattern up here. So there's pattern number 4. So now if I say play pattern 23, I know instantly it's that key, yeah? So there we go, there's our number 7. Now pattern number 16. There we go, so we're now playing this one here. So I just find this a lot easier way of actually just doing the mappings, because you're just so much more, I'm so much more comfortable doing this and doing it this way. But there we go. So we've got automatic key switching as we're playing the patterns. And obviously, as I said, I've done this with Dr. X. There's nothing stopping you doing something a bit more flash with having a couple of Kongs you can have set up. So you can have, obviously have 16 pads, 16 pads, you could have 32 pads set up then, couldn't you? And then let's start mapping that across the keyboard and do all sorts of things so it switches automatically between them. Or you can also then start looking at stuff, how can we start layering stuff as well? So there's nothing stopping you setting up in such a way that the key switches will turn everything off on this one, but when I use this pattern up here and a pattern up here, these two get layered. So you can have fun just configuring it all up. Anyway, I've waffled enough as per usual, and we've had a few mistakes along the way, which is always a bit of fun. So I want to say thank you for watching and bye for now.